The evolution and development of airport infrastructure in India. India's aviation sector has undergone remarkable transformation in recent years, with airport infrastructure emerging as a critical component in a nation's development agenda. The country has witnessed an unprecedented expansion of its airport network, evolving from merely 50 airports with regularly scheduled service 2 decades ago to 148 operational airports by 2023. This growth trajectory reflects India's commitment to enhancing air connectivity and supporting its burgeoning economic ambitions. Before delving into the detailed aspects of airport development in India, it is worth noting that the current country is currently implementing one of the world's most ambitious airport expansion programs, with plans to reach 300 operational airports by 2047, supported by an investment of approximately $11 billion in airport infrastructure development. India's approach to airport development encompasses both the construction of entirely new facilities and enhancement of existing ones. The country's aviation infrastructure development is driven by its rapid economic growth, with the GDP quadrupling to almost $4 trillion over the past 2 decades, catapulting India to become the fifth largest economy globally. The economic expansion has fueled a corresponding increase in air travel demand, with passenger traffic in the first 11 months of FY24 growing 16% to $343 million. अरे dollars नहीं, 343 million, supported by healthy growth in both international and domestic segments. Aviation sector is projected to witness an eightfold increase in passenger traffic from 376 million to approximately 3 to 3.5 billion annually by 2047. From the current 376 million to approximately 3 to 3.5 billion. The responsibility of airport development is primarily shared by Airports Authority of India and its various entities under the PPP models. Historically, airports were predominantly constructed by the AAI, but in the recent years have witnessed a transformation in the contracting strategy, with increasing number of projects being developed through PPP arrangements. The shift has facilitated greater investments in the sector and introduced innovative approaches to airport design and operation. Greenfield airports represents a significant component of India's aviation infrastructure development strategy. These facilities are built from scratch on previously underdeveloped or empty land, with the term greenfield emphasizing environmentally conscious characteristics. The Indian government introduced the Greenfield Airports Policy in 2008, providing a framework for construction and commissioning of these new airports. The primary objective behind developing greenfield airports is to divert air traffic from existing urban airports to locations outside city centers, thereby reducing pollution and environmental strain in densely populated areas. This approach addresses the growing challenges faced by strain. This approach growing challenges faced by urban airports, which are increasingly confronted with congestion and environmental concerns. Many airports in India are either at or reaching saturation levels, and greenfield airports offer a solution by establishing new facilities in less congested areas. The government has granted in principle approval to 21 greenfield airports across the country. Notable examples are Bhogapuram Greenfield International Airport, also known as GMR Vishakhapatnam International Airport, which began construction in May 23 and is slated for completion in early 25. Airport will span 2,200 acres with one terminal and 3,800-meter runway, and after its first phase of development, it will service 6 million passengers annually. Other significant greenfield airports include those planned in Kota, Parandur, Tamil Nadu, Kottayam, Kerala, Puri, Odisha, Purandar, Maharashtra, Car Nicobar, and Minicoy, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Additionally, the Union government has recently granted in-principle approval for the construction of greenfield airports in Rajgir, Bihar, with an approximately 1,200 acres of land near Silao identified for the project. The first greenfield airport built in the private sector was Qazi Nazrul Islam Airport, also referred to as Andal Airport, which opened in 2015 in West Bengal's Durgapur. This development marked a significant turning point in the history of aviation due to its eco-friendly and sustainable infrastructure. Brownfield airport development. Complementing the greenfield approach, brownfield airport development involves the revitalization, expansion, and modernization of existing aviation facilities. These airports already possess basic infrastructure such as runways and terminal buildings, which are enhanced to meet growing demands and improve operational efficiency. Brownfield projects face unique challenges, including constraints related to site expansion, design limitation, and execution risk associated with maintaining operations during renovation. Despite these challenges, brownfield development represents a practical approach to enhancing airport capacity, particularly in areas where establishing entirely new facilities may not be feasible. A significant example of the brownfield development is the Chennai International Airport renovation, valued at $23.45 million or 28 billion rupees. The project cost involves upgrading two runways and three terminals, with one terminal having completed construction in April 23. Once the second phase is complete, the new integrated terminal will replace Terminal 2 and 3, increasing the airport's capacity to 23 million passengers. Additionally, new integrated cargo terminal will expand the airport's cargo capacity from 35,000 meters square to 54,000 meters square. Another example is the proposed redevelopment of Raxaul's brownfield approach Airport in Bihar, which aims to restore operations at an airstrip owned by AAI but non-functional for several decades. Raxaul's Brownfield Airport in Bihar. Raxaul's Brownfield Airport in Bihar. This the project will involve allocating 140 acres of land for construction of new terminal and associated infrastructure, with the goal of boosting cross-border connectivity with Nepal, given Rakhol's a strategic location near the Indo-Nepal border. The expansion of India's airport network requires substantial investment in infrastructure development. According to the Global Data's construction database, India's airport building project pipeline is the second most lucrative in Asia and South Asia, valued at $32 billion after China. Current estimates indicate a committed capital expenditure of approximately 55 to 60,000 crore over the next 3 to 4 years, and encompassing new greenfield airports, brownfield expansions, and enhancements of airports under the Airports Authority of India. Current estimates indicate a committed capital expenditure of approximately 55 to 60,000 crore over the next 3-4 years, encompassing new greenfield airport, brownfield airports, and enhancement of airports under the Airports Authority of India. The government investment strategy includes development of various types of airport infrastructure. For instance, the AI plans to develop 70 airstrips into airports capable of holding narrow-body aircrafts like 320 or Boeing 737. Existing airstrips at locations such as Mandavi, Gujarat, Sultanpur, Uttar Pradesh, Tura, Meghalaya, and Chhindwara, Madhya Pradesh can be upgraded for small aircraft operations, while nearly 40 airstrips are slated for development to accommodate smaller aircraft. Airport design and construction approaches. Airport design and construction in India has evolved significantly, moving beyond purely functional consideration to encompassing aesthetic, cultural, and environmental dimensions. Modern airport projects are characterized by passenger-centric approach with increased emphasis on creating spaces that enhance the traveler experience through thoughtful design and amenities. A distinctive feature of the contemporary airport design is the incorporation of elements that reflect local culture and heritage. New airports are being designed to portray the cultural identity and key attractions of the respective regions. For example, the Adani Group's project at Lucknow and Guwahati have placed significant emphasis on airport aesthetics that celebrate local cultural elements. Similarly, airports in Pune, Kolhapur, and Tirchi have been designed to feature aspects of local culture, creating a sense of place and identity for travelers. The Ayodhya Airport, Maharishi Valmiki International Airport, exemplifies this approach with its design drawing inspiration from the city's rich cultural and historical heritage. The airport's architecture incorporates elevational elements that depicts the sacred city's history, creating a visual narrative that connects the facility to its cultural context. Professor Charanjit Singh Shah, who designed the airport in Varanasi, similarly integrated Hindu symbolism into terminal design, while his work on the Ayodhya airport included references from the story of Ram translated into architectural motifs, artwork, volumetric analysis, stone cut works. The development of airports in India increasingly leverages advanced technologies to enhance design, construction, and operational efficiency. Building information modeling has been emerged as a critical tool. Building information modeling has emerged as a critical tool, providing a collaborative platform for architects, engineers, contractors, and stakeholders to seamlessly integrate their skills across the project lifecycle. Unlike traditional 2D drawings, BIM enables the creation of a digital twin of the airport, encompassing structural elements, mechanical systems, and spatial arrangements. Several major airports in India have utilized the BIM technology. For instance, Bengaluru International Airport Limited has employed the BIM to design, build, operate projects over the full life cycle with Autodesk BIM 360 serving as the foundation for the design and planning of Terminal 2. This approach has facilitated completion in record time, promoting seamless communication between numerous teams, enhancing productivity and delivering a sustainable and design-led approach. Similarly, Guwahati's new integrated terminal building at the Lokpriya Gopinath Bardoloi International Airport used BIM with the Airports Authority of India, selecting it as the platform for designing and planning the new facility in 2019. Designing Forum International and AECOM utilized Autodesk Revit system to create the terminal, facilitating improved collaboration between project teams through cloud-based access to centralized models. Sustainability and airport development. Environmental considerations are increasingly integral to development in India. Modern airports are being designed with sustainability as a core principle, incorporating features that minimize environmental impact and promote resource efficiency. Terminal buildings are designed to maximize the use of natural light and incorporate green spaces, reducing energy consumption and create more pleasant environment for travelers. The Ayodhya Airport stands as a testament to the India's commitment to sustainable aviation infrastructure. Received the Griha 4-star certification, which recognizes adherence to stringent environmental standards in design, construction, and operation. The certification reflects a broader trend towards environmentally conscious development in the aviation sector, with greenfield airports in particular emphasizing the minimization of ecological impacts during construction and operation. The focus on sustainability extends beyond individual facilities to encompass the broader environmental implications of the aviation infrastructure. The Greenfields Airports policy, for instance, aims to reduce pollution in urban areas by establishing new airports in less congested locations. Despite the significant progress in airport infrastructure development, the sector faces several challenges that require strategic responses. One of the primary difficulties involved in coordination between various stakeholders, particularly with the state governments for land acquisition and approval. Delays in land acquisition and allotment, as well as in obtaining necessary clearances, have affected project timelines. For example, among the 13 greenfield airports that have received in principle approval, 4 were operationalized only after 10 years, and one took 20 years to become operational. Legal disputes related to rehabilitation and resettlements issues frequently lead to litigation, further delaying projects. Standing Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture has recommended establishing a coordination mechanism between stakeholders and implementing a system to track land acquisition progress to address these issues. Technical challenges also arise during the design and construction process phases. For example, airport designs must carefully address issues such as water collection and drainage. In one case, designers had to modify roof configurations to prevent water from seeping through joints and dripping inside the terminal during rainfall. Construction projects also face challenges relating to material availability and skilled labor shortages. At the Noida International Airport, obtaining a structural steel of the roof has been identified a major challenge, and despite having 10,000 people working on site, skilled human resource remains a concern. Airport development in India extend beyond urban centers to enhance regional connectivity through initiatives like UDAN, Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik scheme. This program aims to improve regional connectivity to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. This program aims to improve connectivity to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. This program aims to improve connectivity to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, making air travel more accessible to a broader segment of the population. Udan scheme aims to improve connectivity to Udan scheme aims to improve connectivity to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, making air travel more accessible to a broader segment of the population, making air travel more accessible to a broader segment of the population, making air travel more accessible to the broader segment of the population. The economic impact of airport development is multifaceted. Airports serve as catalyst for regional growth, creating direct employment opportunities and stimulating development in sectors such as tourism, hospitality, and retail. Improved air connectivity enhances business opportunities, facilitates trade, and attracts investment to regions that were previously less accessible. The development of cross-border connectivity, as exemplified by the Rakhal Airport project near the Indo-Nepal border, demonstrate how airport infrastructure can foster international economic relations and regional cooperation. Such initiatives enhance trade and tourism between different neighboring countries, contributing to broader economic integration and development. Looking ahead, India's airport development trajectory remains ambitious and forward looking. The government's vision of 2047 aims to double the number of operational airports by 2300, supported by a corresponding expansion in passenger handling capacity. This vision is aligned with projections of substantial growth in air travel demand, with passenger traffic expected to increase eightfold by 2047. The focus on creating world-class facilities is evident in ongoing and planned projects. The design and construction of new airports increasingly prioritize passenger experience, operational efficiency, environmental sustainability, and cultural relevance. The integration of advanced technologies, sustainable practices, and innovation design approaches is transforming India's airport landscape, creating facilities that serve not only as transportation hubs but also as gateways that showcase the country's cultural heritage. The development of airport infrastructure represents a multifaceted endeavor that balances technical requirements, economic consideration, environmental concerns, and cultural aspirations. The country's approach encompasses both greenfield and brownfield projects. Greenfield projects that establish entirely new facilities, and brownfield developments that enhance existing airports, creating a diverse and expanding network of aviation infrastructure. Sus- Substantial investments, innovation, design practices, technological integration, and a focus on sustainability characterize contemporary airport development in India. While challenges related to coordination, land acquisition, and technical implementation persist, strategic responses are being formulated to address these issues and accelerate infrastructure development. As India progresses towards its vision of 300 operational airports by 2047, the continued expansion and enhancement of aviation infrastructure will play a crucial role in supporting economic growth, improving connectivity, and positioning the country as a major global innovation hub. The transformation of India's airport landscape reflects not only the growth of its aviation sector but also its broader economic and social development aspirations, creating infrastructure that connects peoples, places, and possibilities across vast and diverse nation. Guidelines for approval of proposals for setting up of greenfield airports. So central government has notified the policy of greenfield airports. A steering committee has also been constituted to coordinate and monitor various clearances required. Steering committee has also been constituted to coordinate and monitor the various clearances required for setting up of greenfield airports. A copy of the notification constituting the steering committee is enclosed in Annex 2. These guidelines are being issued pursuant to the above policy, and details of the procedure to be followed for submission, appraisal, and approval of proposals received for setting up of an airport. Institutional structure. All proposals for setting up of airports in whichever category would be routed through the steering committee. The applicant would be required to apply for clearances from various departments, ministries, but all proposals would be submitted to the steering committee. Ministry of Civil Aviation would serve as the secretariat of the steering committee and would be responsible for processing proposals received by the steering committee, convening the meetings, and coordinating with various stakeholders. These guidelines will apply to the setting up of all airports, heliports, and upgradation of airfields. However, airports set up for private use, that is, use of the airport for non-commercial purposes, such shall not be subjected to these guidelines. Site clearance granted by steering committee. The applicant proposing to set up an airport would make an application to the steering committee in the format enclosed in Annexure 3 for site clearance. The proposal received would be forwarded to the AAI-DGCA for their comments. AAI-DGCA would undertake site visit, based on which they would submit the report to the steering committee. Site clearance would be granted by the Ministry of Civil Aviation based on the report submitted by the AAI-DGCA. In case the proposed project is located within the restricted airspace under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Defence, the approval of Ministry of Defence would also be solicited while granting site clearance. The steering committee would convey its recommendations regarding the site clearance within 3 months of the application being made to the steering committee. Appraisal and in-principle approval by the steering committee. After obtaining the site clearance, the applicant would make an application in the format enclosed at Annexure 4. Applications for seeking clearances from Ministry of Defence, Home Affairs, Finance would be submitted in the prescribed format directly to these organizations under intimation to the Secretariat of the Steering Committee. Guidelines for the purpose of granting approval would be issued to various agencies. These guidelines shall be modified from time to time if the need arises. Ministry of Defence has issued these guidelines for seeking clearance for Ministry of Defence for setting up of greenfield airports. The applicant would submit the proposal seeking NOC from the Ministry of Defence as per the format placed at Annexure 6. Grant of license by DGCA. After obtaining the in-principle approval of the steering committee, the applicant would make an application to the DGCA in the prescribed format for grant of an aerodrome license. It would be the endeavour of the central government to ensure that all approvals and site clearances are given in a timely manner. Pending occurrences of any specific issue, it would be endeavour of the steering committee to adhere to the following time schedule: site clearance within 3 months, in principle approval within 3 months. Proposals which need to be referred to MOCA or central government would require time beyond the above time limit. The steering committee would monitor the progress of proposals granted in principal approval. If no significant progress is made in achieving specified milestones within a stipulated time period, steering committee may take the view to revoke the approval granted to the project. India is presently on a high economic growth trajectory, growing 9% since 2005-6. This is also manifested in a phenomenal growth in air traffic that has enabled by liberalized policies. Since 2002, the growth rate of passenger traffic has increased, crossing 20% in 2004-5. Expansion of air services in a competitive environment has brought it with reach of large numbers that were hitherto not using air travel as the preferred mode of travel. This rapid growth in passenger traffic has put enormous pressure on airport infrastructure, causing severe congestion at major airports. Airport services at non-metro airports are also geared for handling the increased flow of air traffic. In the past, government policy relating to greenfield airports was restrictive and aimed at protecting the financial viability of existing airports. However, the spurt in traffic suggests the liberalized approach towards setting up of greenfield airports with a view to bridging the growing deficit in airport infrastructure. Anticipated investment in airport development during the 11th plan is over 40,000 crore, both from public and private sources, including greenfield airports. Legal framework. The constitution includes aerodromes in Item 29 of the Union List, which implies central government alone has the legislative and executive powers relating to airports. Primary responsibility for development of airports rests with the central government. Union alone has the competence to legislate. Airways, aircraft and air navigation, provisions of aerodromes regulation and organization of air traffic and of aerodromes, provision of aeronautical education and training, regulation of such education, etc. Aircraft Act and rules made thereunder by the central government govern the development, maintenance and operation of all such airports. Airports Authority of India was enacted by the central government AI Act in 1994, which stated that all government airports are to be developed, financed and operated. Developed, financed, operated and maintained by the Airports Authority of India. However, the AI Act enables AI to grant a concession to the private entity for financing, developing, operation and maintenance being managed by AI. As such, greenfield airports to be developed by the central governments could adopt the concession route if private participation is envisaged. Airports other than those managed by AI are under the governed by the provisions of the Aircraft Act and the rules made thereunder. Any entity other than AI can set up an airport. The airport company must function under a license from DGCA to be issued under the Aircraft Act. Such a license can be granted only to the following: Rule 79 of the Aircraft Rules, citizen of India, company or a body registered. It is registered having its principal place of business in India. It meets the equity holding criteria specified by the central government and central government or state government or any company or any corporation. Airports managed by AAI must be operated according to the provisions of the AAI Act as well as the Aircraft Act. Safety regulation. The process to regulate and the technical and safety standards of all airports is vested in DGCA under the provisions of Aircraft Act. AI airport as well as those owned by airport companies must therefore conform to the technical and safety standards laid by the DGCA under the Aircraft Act. Economic regulation of all airports would be governed by AERA as and when enacted. Greenfield airports to be set up by AI would be preferentially constructed through public-private partnership, and such airports would be financed substantially through PPP concessions. However, land for such airports would have to be provided by AI. Further financing gaps, if any, can be bridged through the Viability Gap Funding Scheme, which provides a capital grant up to 20% of the project cost. The concessions for development of greenfield airports would be awarded through open competitive bidding based on model bidding documents. In the northeastern areas where it may not be feasible to follow the PPP route, AI could set up greenfield airports by itself as may be approved by the government on a case-to-case basis. In case a state government wishes to promote setting up of airports in a state, it could apply to DGCA for a license itself, in which event the state government would be responsible for development and operation of this airport. An entity of the state government could apply for a license to the DGCA for license, in which event such entity would be responsible for the development and operation for the airport. The state government or its corporation may select a private entity to form a joint venture company in the private sector, and in such event, joint venture company allot land to the private airport company for development and operation of airport under the license from DGCA. Land, concessional or otherwise, real estate development rights, airport connectivity, fiscal incentives, etc. State governments may evolve their respective policies for providing any or all of the above force incentives in an airport company. On any greenfield activity to be developed under these policy, activities relating to the air traffic services, security, customs and immigration would be reserved for central government agencies. Provision of these services would be governed by the policies to be laid down by the central government from time to time. Prior to grant of license, an applicant for license shall procure the following clearances: defense clearances, air traffic services, security, customs, MHA clearance, immigration, BCAS clearance, airport meteorological services. An applicant seeking a license would need prior defense clearance from the Ministry of Defense. Guidelines for purpose would be issued by the Ministry of Defense from time to time. Functions related to ATS are being discharged by AI. The applicant will have to enter into a CNS ATM agreement with AI for the provision of ATS services. At the proposed airport, AI would be provided on a cost recovery basis. ATS would be provided on a cost recovery basis, and AI would publish a standard agreement for this purpose. Airport company would also provide the required infrastructure to AI free of cost for the provision of ATS. The applicant will have to enter into an agreement for provision of security by the concerned authority. The cost of providing security will have to be borne by the airport company. Guidelines for this purpose would be issued by the Ministry of Civil Aviation from time to time. In case of international airport, the applicant will obtain clearance from Department of Revenue for provision of customs services. The cost of providing these secure services will have to be borne by the airport company. MHA clearance will need prior clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs regarding location of the airport. acquisition and installation of security equipment, and verification of credentials of the developers. A memorandum of understanding would be entered into between the airport company and each government department before providing the following reserved services, setting out on terms and conditions on which the said services shall be provided: custom control, immigration services, health services, plant quarantine and animal quarantine services. Conditions of license will be required to make available its airport services free of charge and to the extent necessary for meeting exigencies such as war, natural disaster, etc. Provide uninterrupted landing and parking facilities. Make available to the security agencies access to the airport for periodic and surprise inspections. Obtain approval for the relevant agencies for hiring of foreign nationals. Guidelines of central government to DGCA. No greenfield airport will be allowed within an aerial distance of 150 km of an existing civilian airport. In case a greenfield airport is proposed to be set within 150 km, the impact of the existing airport would be examined. A greenfield airport to be set up by AI or an airport company that is in compliance of the above guidelines and is beyond 150 kilometers would not require prior approval of the central government. DGCA would be competent to grant license for operation as per the extent rules and notifications. Greenfield airport that is beyond 150 km of existing airport but seeks exemptions and relaxation from any other guidelines or extent rules would be considered by the steering committee constituted under paragraph 10. So that's all in this one. The composition of steering committee: Secretary, Minister of Civil Aviation is the chairman. This is for site clearance, in principle approval, defense approval, so that's all. See you in the next one.